This week on the Bub Report, we examine the contentious issues that have emerged in the short and spirited elections campaign that has unfolded in the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago over the last month, as the nation goes to the polls tomorrow, August 10th.
And in fact, the black man on the other side talked about kindergarten. What a great disservice and disrespect to the young people of this country. Says it.
That I'm a proud black man. I mean, I carry myself in a way that black boys and black girls can be proud of what I am and what I represent. My children are proud of me. I'm proud of the life I've led.
Current public opinion polling by the North American Teachers Association, NACTA, says the elections are too close to call due to the competitive opinion polling in the battleground constituencies of Moruga Tableland and Lahokota Talparo. The United National Congress is going it alone in this election and have not put up any candidates for the two Tobago seats. We also tackle the recent Jamaican High Court decision on the policing of dreadlocks at the prestigious Jamaican elementary school, Kensington Primary.
I don't think these judges are bad mind. I think they're just going based on their value system, their understanding of the law, and they don't believe genuinely that there's a breach of constitutional rights. But there are many people.
But not in this day and age. We still have the wig in Parliament. Why are we having that wig? And then we can't wear locks to school.
The courts disavowed the notion that the child was being excluded from the school on account of religious expression, since her parents were unable to prove that she was Rastafarian. They also made the point that the schools have the rights to enforce specific grooming policies, and as such, the parents can find a school that would accept the child. The judgment raises long-standing questions about the policing and regulation of African hair in the Caribbean. Joining our panel today are Trinidadian senior reporter Kevin Fellman of the Guardian Media Group, Damian Marcus Williams, a community change consultant in Jamaica, Senator Damian Crawford of the People's National Party of Jamaica, and the Right Honorable Priest Kalish, herbalist and Rastafarian activist from St. Lucia. It's Sunday, August 9th, 2020, and welcome to another installment of the Bub Report, Sunday edition. A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bub Report. I'm Kellen Bub, and before we get to our first guest this morning, let me welcome followers and viewers of Good Music, Good Times online radio, based in Brooklyn, a Grenadian-owned online radio station in Brooklyn, and we have been working overtime over the last few weeks to build a streaming partnership with Good Music, Good Times, and we're happy to report that they will be streaming our Sunday show on their platform starting this Sunday. This week, folks, was also an incredibly sad week for the media fraternity in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and by extension, the OECS and the rest of the Caribbean region. We lost the late Jerry S. George, who died in the middle of one of his online broadcasts on Tuesday. I first met Jerry when I was a young reporter assigned to cover and conduct a one-on-one interview with Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the South African apartheid activist who visited Grenada in 2004. I had the chance to see Jerry in action as he conducted what, in hindsight, I consider to be a master class in interviewing technique and investigative journalistic questioning. Independent Caribbean media are certainly taking a hit in 2020. And we are hard-pressed as independent professionals to fill the gaping void left by the likes of Jerry George and George Grant. I therefore take this opportunity to extend my deepest condolences to Jerry's family and those who worked closely with him in the cause of public accountability, education, and empowerment. May he transition in peace. And so I want to welcome my first guest this morning. I bring in Mr. Kevin Fellman, who is the senior editor at senior reporter, at the Guardian Media Group in Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Fellman, good morning. I can't seem to hear you there. I can't hear you. Let us unmute your mic. Let us figure out. Yes, there might be an issue with your microphone there. Yeah, so let us take a break, folks. Mr. Feldman, you might have to log out and log back in again. We will take a break and come back with Mr. Feldman. Okay, folks, thank you for your patience. We seem to be having some audio difficulties with Mr. Feldman out there in Trinidad. So what we're going to do, we are going to go to our segment break. And when we come back, we will bring in the Right Honorable Priest Kalish and Mr. Damian Marcus Williams to discuss the Jamaica ruling. Stand by. Thank you for your patience this morning.
And in my preliminary reading of the ruling, is that this court is holding on to things that we've moved beyond, right? We're using locks and rasta to sell Jamaica on the international sphere. Jamaica is known for an international black radical tradition, pushing the boundaries of social justice, pushing the boundaries of oppression, right? And at home, we're still talking about, in essence, they're hankering back to the notion of a dirty rasta, right? I mean, the fact that your black hair is unclean, right? And it's not just the black hair, because your hair is, the question of hygiene is not just a hair hygiene, it's a whole body hygiene. Who else are we policing in the same way? And I see lots of lawyers with locks. So what the lawyer them must say?
We are a Pan-African epicenter because of Marcus Garvey, because of Rastafari. That's what the world see outside. But inside, the contradiction is amazing. Skin bleaching is pervasive throughout the society. You know, we have problems getting children into school with natural hairstyles. Rastafari has been fighting in the court system for years, as you know, to get youngsters, their children, into schools. And then even now, it's still not totally freed up because many Rastafari have to cover their hair in tams. Why cover your hair? To me, that's still an infringement. To me, that is an insult, to be honest with you.
And welcome back, folks. I want to welcome my first panelists. I have Mr. Damian Marcus Williams, who is out there in Jamaica. And I have the Right Honorable Priest Kalish, who is a Rastafarian brother out there in St. Lucia. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the Bub Report.
Good morning, Kellen. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So, Marcus, I would start with you with respect to the ruling that was handed down last week in Jamaica. Now, the presiding judge in the No Braids, No Locks case, he actually reprimanded media outlets. He reprimanded social media for getting the facts wrong in this case. He says, the High Court says that it was a matter of personal hair hygiene as opposed to a matter of hair discrimination on religious grounds. Are the panel of judges not right in calling out John Public for not waiting on the written judgment before forming their opinion on the matter? Marcus, what say you?
Okay. I was one of those persons who had a lot to say before seeing the written judgment. I have then seen the written judgment. I've read all 60 pages of the written judgment. And my question after having read it was, and what was the whole hullabaloo about us not speaking before and waiting on the written judgment? My opinions before the written judgment still remain. I think what is on trial here is not a matter of health and hygiene, because even if it were, you are saying by the judgment that automatically a person with locked hair has a hygiene problem. There was no evidence supporting that the locked hair of the girl posed a health I think what is at trial here is the issue of autonomy and freedom of expression. And I think we must be able to give analysis beyond what the law says or what legal precedents have been set by this case. This is a matter of dignity, this is a matter of autonomy, human expression, and this is clear evidence that in our culture, in our laws, there are things that are systemic, that are oppressive and prejudicial, and that we must resist, we must speak up against it, and we must all defend the right to freedom of expression. I think the judgment poses a huge problem for going forward. If you're talking about freedom of expression, and one would need to, based on what is written, one would need to prove that the expression is based off of religion or an idea, something ideological. One cannot just decide, I want to do this because I want to do it, right? It must be attached or grounded in some kind of religious or ideological position. And that for me is dangerous. It is dangerously oppressive.
Now, Marcus, I want to quote from part 155 of the judgment, part 155, which I'm sure you said you read. The judges state, quote, "It cannot be right or just for each individual to vary the rules of engagement with these organizations," meaning schools, "or any other place of employment, simply because a right exists to participate and avail ourselves of the benefit of publicly funded institutions without proper reasons or justifications, and simply on the basis that it does not fit within their choices and mode of self-expression," unquote. In other words, Marcus, shouldn't parents and students follow rules of the schools? Again, that is a devil's advocate argument.
I'm glad you read that piece verbatim, because what you're hearing there is that it is publicly funded, right? And if the public is funding these schools, then the public should have a say in how rules are formed, in how policies are formed. We must have a participatory approach towards that so that the public can have a say in what rules schools, publicly funded schools, put in place. And therein lies the problem. Because one of the questions I asked was, what is it that empowers a school or any organization to create those very oppressive and prejudicial laws or rules?
But Marcus, I'm sorry, those rules have been in place for a long time. I mean, we are formerly colonized, and some may say still colonized spaces that operate on those legacies of colonialism. This is not new.
Right. And that is the point. There was a point, and as cliche as this may sound, there was a point when slavery was rule and it was law. And there has to come a point where we are disruptive. There has to come a point where we can say we are here to claim all of our freedoms, all of our rights, as long as they do not infringe on the rights of others. Let me tell you this, a lot of these laws or rules that are made by schools are grounded in respectability politics. And let us go back to the origin of respectability politics. Respectability politics is about proximity to whiteness. That is what it is. And so we like to say we don't have racism in the Caribbean, but a lot of our societal norms, a lot of the things that we hold as values are rooted in a white, what Bell Hooks calls, a white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. And we have to be able to interrogate those rules and to contest them. That is why we say we live in a democracy, because it is participatory. It is where every voice is heard, even the voices to which we have ascribed little power.
Okay. At this juncture, I want to bring in the Right Honorable Priest Kalish out there in St. Lucia. Yes, Honorable, welcome to the Bub Report.
I
Yes, my
hope to
brother,
see
give
you
thanks.
on many other programs. I want to get your reaction, Honorable, to the ruling that was handed down in the Jamaican court. What are your thoughts?
Well, I give thanks, I mean, for life and a mighty life giver, and I give thanks definitely for the opportunity to actually share with your people. First and foremost, basically, there is something referred to as a Charter of Human Rights, which is basically above national law. So you have international law and then you have the national law. So by right, everyone's supposed to have that freedom of expression, and no child is supposed to be, for any reason whatsoever, deprived of an education or health. So when these things there, when these rulings actually come out, um, not really from the perspective of a Rastafari, because I have my views as a Rastafari would be different to that on the general aspect, whereby how it is that people would discriminate natural 9 Ifa hair, because a black man has a natural 9 Ifa hair, it naturally locks, right? And because of the fact that even our educational institutions, our scientists have not even made it a priority even to go into the depths of studying even the benefits of locked hair, right? So you would have metaphysicists talk about it, right? But we have scientists at UE and all around the place, whereby we could validate our own existence to that realm, whereby we could appreciate love, as the Rastafari would say, our natural beauty. So I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, they're just vomiting or regurgitating. It is a shame that at this point in our existence as a people, we are still oppressive and oppressive to our own selves. So the Rastafari was the one who, like right now in America, you see people protesting against the police and people protesting against brutality. In the Caribbean, in the Caribbean, even if we don't have white oppressors, we have what you would call the white hat oppressors, because the Rastafari actually he bore the brunt, of the oppressive regime. So while slavery was abolished, and the Rastafari come and say black is beautiful and Africa is beautiful, now Rastafari became the new slave, right? Rastafari is the black man in America that is in the Caribbean, if you understand what I'm saying. So Rastafari was shot because of the locks. Rastafari were because of the herb. Right now, herb is decriminalized. Because of the herb, the Rastaman was then not allowed to hold a job in the police force. All right. So for what reason then a Rastaman cannot be a police? The only reason is that probably he might not want to swear allegiance to the Queen, right? But let's say you have a republic whereby a Rastafari could swear allegiance to, not swear, but actually say, well, he's standing with his president, right? So he's supposed to have that freedom to be in the police force, in the customs and excise, right? So when we are at this point today where we still having that level of backward discussion, I mean, this is like, as you would say, like a movement back into time, So I strongly believe that if as I read that it will be taken to the Privy Council, this will be overturned. I mean, this is not something that could stand up in international law, and it is a shame, but yet it is very good. It is very good. At least it gives people an idea. The ordinary man that's not a Rastafari, it gives them an idea of what we had to go through as a nation of people when there was this attempted genocide on the Rastafari. But for me personally, from the perspective of a Rastafari, I would say that we will be making the same mistake as Martin Luther King. I would stand strong with Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey, saying that I wouldn't really go for integration. Okay, so when it is that as a Rastafari, or let's say as a black man in general, you give your child to be educated by a white man, what do you think you're gonna get? All right, so as a Rastafari, when it is that you give your child to be educated and you're fighting to get into this prestigious school as a Catholic school, so what do you expect your child gonna come out as? Right, so our fight now, I would say, supposed to be a fight of nation building, because we have enough Rastafari intellectuals. I mean, everyone is free. I mean, everyone is free. The Rastafari who wants to send his child to a public school, that's okay. But I would think that the same way that when Martin Luther King really realized that he made a mistake and he's been marching too long, and decided to boycott Coca-Cola and started to talk about the economic aspects of stuff like Marcus Garvey was talking about, he was shot. Right, so for me, integration is not really something that I would push for. personally, as a Rastafari, I would say right now, the same way like in St. Lucia, you have the Seventh-day Adventist schools. They get disbursements from government. They have all these other schools. They get disbursements. The private schools, they get disbursements from governments. The battle that Rastafari is supposed to be fighting now, immediately, right now, is for that recognition, whereby as a people we could establish ourselves. I mean, look, we have Kadamawe Knife, the professor in Jamaica, right? He's a brilliant man. We have plenty professors who are like Rastafari, right? So why is it that we cannot organize ourselves and make our battle a battle to change not just the educational, but the socio-economic and the political landscape within the Caribbean? So while we are fighting to integrating, we're really supposed to be pushing forward a fight towards establishing ourselves in a manner whereby we come out of this whole colonial thing whereby, oh boy, this is the best school. I want my child to go to this school. No, my children are homeschooled. I have 7 children. They are homeschooled. Right now, after my firstborn son, 16 years, he went through homeschooling. He wrote his CXCs. Right now, he's doing UE Open Campus. Right. So why is it that as a nation of people, why is it that we cannot even overstand the benefits of, okay, because when you look at it from ancient time, when the Rastafari child gets into the school, they're always the brightest, right? They always surpass because of that connection to the heritage and to that whole Afrocentricity. So, beloved, I would on a human right level, right? I mean, everyone has a right, and scientifically, you're talking about 9 ether here. The level of reception to energy is different. Why are antennas in spirals? Why is it that our DNA molecule is in spirals? Why? Just because that's how you actually store energy. You store memory, right? So it is sad that we are at this point today, but at the end of the day, from a Rastafari perspective, I will more speak about the whole aspect of, yes, we are right now, we deserve it, because there was the Black Tuesday in Dominica, where hundreds of Rastafari were shot, Coral Garden massacre in Jamaica, the Mount Jimmy raid in St. Lucia, Grenada had its share, so did St. Vincent, right? So we deserve that recognition as a people, whereby we're supposed to be teaching people Africanness. These schools supposed to be trying hard to get in a Rastafari school, from my perspective.
Yep. I'm going
Yes.
to bring in. Mr. Williams back into the conversation. I can't seem to see his stream seems to be frozen. But Honorable, I just want to get your personal experience. Were you also homeschooled?
Well, I was not homeschooling, but when I went into Cuba, because I went to medical school in Cuba,
Okay.
right, and then that was where I really got a fight, because I was at one of the most prestigious medical school, CS science, that was in Cienfuegos, right, and then I was a Bobo Shanti. I'm a priest of the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, so naturally we wear turbans.
Yes.
And I remember at the school, they called me into this big meeting where everyone is there, and it's saying, well, look, you see, well, it's against the rules to actually wrap your hair and da 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 da. So I asked them, well, when a surgeon goes into theater, what does he do to his hair? He covers his hair, right? And I asked them that if they believe that I cannot express myself how I express myself, when the Pope, Pope Francis, actually comes to Cuba and he's wearing his little hat on his head,
The tam.
and he comes,
Yeah.
his thumb, what you're gonna ask him to remove it? And I expressed to them that, look, the revolution, la revolution in Cuba, right? They fought the revolution because they were an oppressed people. So why is it that they're supposed to oppress me and deny me of my education? Because of, and that was it. So many
and that is ironic. You would think that Cuba would be a progressive society in the sense of having revolutionary credentials and being a part of the global South non-aligned movement and things like that.
Well, I mean, Cuba, I mean, my personal experience in Cuba, I mean, Cuba has a lot of racism. When it comes to the aspect of El Negro, El Blanco, Blanquito, Negrito, you understand? So the system of class, okay, in my medical school, where I went to, all the Negros, the black people used to study nursing. right? And then you'd have all the los blancos, those that look like more whitish, they'll be studying medicine, right? And you'd have one or two black doctors in that whole year. So we had about two, like 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 Cuban Africans in our whole year when it comes to medical school. So these things that still exist, we are still stereotyped wherever we go in the world as black people, and it's just because that we have not realized our strengths. And while is it that we are fighting to integrate, we're supposed to be fighting to actually nation build, really isolate, right? Bring ourselves to that point of our existence whereby look, we have enough capacity within our own selves. Look at St. Lucia. We have less than 200,000, right? Less than 200,000 people, and yet still we have two Nobel laureates. You understand? And Japan just got one. So why is it that as a Caribbean people in the healthcare, in education, that we have to be fighting to integrate when we could actually nation build?
So how do you reimagine, because you mentioned homeschooling, but are you going to recommend homeschooling as a prescription for the entire population of students in the region? I mean, how do you reimagine education?
Well, we don't
Ensuring
have
that
to
it's
imagine.
decolonized.
We don't have to imagine again, honorable. We don't have to imagine again. We could just exist in the moment. Coronavirus, COVID-19. What happened during COVID-19 to all the schools in the world? What happened? They closed. They closed.
Right. We seem to be having some technical issues, but let me go through some of the comments. Someone says, yes, Honorable Priest Kalish, we need to embrace and glorify our blackness. Golden Sunshine says, in 2020, this should never be in the Caribbean. Forward ever, backward never, in the words of Morris Bishop. Then we have a comment from Narissa Philip Thomas, says, it all starts with educating ourselves, not just depending on our curriculums, but reading books for expansion and learning our history. Education is key. And then we had a comment earlier from Margaret Francis. Margaret says, let's not obfuscate this issue. What is on trial is natural black hair. Once again, black people are being subjected to white Western concepts of beauty. Why is it that braids and locks, which are styles that are intrinsic to black people, are the ones that are outlawed? Why is straightening and pressing not outlawed? We have to call it what it is, racism. So these are some of the comments coming in on the pike. Then we have Kipling Francis, who says, during my entire lifespan, I've seen and heard so many different Rastafarian. Hard to tell which is the real one. Okay, so Marcus, let me see if I can get back to you there. So you've heard some of the comments that the Honorable Priest Kalish was making about the notion, and he critiques the notion that we have to be fighting to get into these parochial schools that are still built on the legacy of colonialism, right? How do you respond to that thought process?
Oh, I so agree with it. I remember when it happened, I spoke largely about a reformation of our education system. I think we need to just ask simply, without getting into all of the legal speak, just simply ask, what is it about locked hair? What is it about black that is so offensive that would prevent a child from learning? That would be so disruptive that a school cannot have him or her. What is it about black hair? Male hair, black males hair are prohibited. So you could only be less than 1 inch high. But you have other types of hair that can be any length because black hair, if left to grow, is considered unkempt. There has to be a huge reformation that builds the education system from an understanding of who we are. Education, you talk about if you're a teacher and educator, when you go to teachers college, they teach you about the affective domain and the cognitive domain. The affective domain has to do with your attitudes and your values, those things that make you person and human. That is what the education. And if you have a shaky foundation where that is concerned, then you would have certified people who are smart, certified people who are corrupt, certified people who continue to perpetuate this kind of self-hate in our systems. And so I agree with him. I think what we're seeing is a legacy of the 1960s where Rasta was persecuted, where Rasta was searched for and killed. There was a saying in the 1960s here in Jamaica, bring all Rasta, dead or alive. And it seems to me in 2020, we still have it in for anybody who has locked hair, and the stigma is still attached to the hairstyle. And I think we need to reassess that. And it begins with our education system.
Priest Kalish, where do we go from here? I know that you're doing. You
Yes,
said you're doing homeschooling with your kids in St. Lucia. Are all of them doing homeschooling? Or all of them are doing homeschooling?
yes, all my children really do are homeschooled. Yes, they are homeschooled. And
Okay.
but pardon me, a while ago, I mean, the woods was so hot, the phone actually was overheating.
Yeah.
You know, so so it
that
just
is that
cut
is
off.
totally fine.
Yeah,
That
so
is
I give
totally
thanks.
fine.
I give thanks again. I apologize for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but all my children are homeschooled. All of them are homeschooled. Every one of them. They are from the age of my eldest will be 17 in the 1st of January, and the last one is not the last one. The final one is actually one, and I have 7 of them.
Mhm.
Right, and all of them are homeschooled. And it's good. And once I attempt, my son actually tried going to the Sir Alfred Lewis Community College, and because he did good in CXC, so he wanted to do mechanical engineering and so on. So he said he'll go and do his diploma. After about 3 weeks or so, about 3 weeks into the school, he said that he doesn't want to go to the school.
Mm.
He finds that it is changing him, and the changes were apparent. Right. So I was saying previously that COVID-19, because remember, that the Rastafari levity is a prophetic levity. If it is that we really analyze the science behind what the Rastafari have been saying all over the years, because the Rastafari have not been credited at all. He's not been honored for his level of intellect, right? His prophetic nature. Remember, the Rastafari lifestyle, the Rastafari levity is the levity that actually is governing the world right now. Everyone is vegan. Rastafari was saying ital. Cannabis is decriminalized and legalized everywhere, and marijuana was actually it was the foundation of the Rastafari movement. Reparations, the heads of government of CARICOM right now is actually seeking reparations, right? So it is very important. It is very important that we as a people, right, basically analyze ourselves and see, well, look, the Rastafari has actually played a crucial part, a crucial role. So the Rastafari was teaching homeschool. We were burning Babylon system, right? We were saying that, look, you want to allow them to be taught all these different aspects of stuff. And I know what the agenda is at the school these days, right? So I find that coronavirus, again, took us to the point whereby supermarkets had no food. And the Rastafari always used to say, grow your garden, plant your food, right? Go back to the earth. So I actually am in the mountain. All right. So then during coronavirus, I was able to lock down 2 weeks before St. Lucia lockdown. Right. I was able to actually stay up there, be self-sufficient, solar, water harvesting, right? My food growing, right? And all these things there for the whole time during the quarantine. Right. So the Rastafari levity have been undermined, underestimated, overlooked. Jamaica just started taxing reggae artists. You understand? So all the time, the whole world making money off reggae. The whole world making money, get billions of reggae. And the Jamaican government just recently acknowledged, right, reggae as a commodity and began taxing. You understand? So we
Right,
go ahead.
Honorable, I don't want to cut you, but I want you to respond to a comment that Martin Felix is making. He's saying Rastafarians pay taxes, so therefore Rastas should create their own schools for specialized education if they find it necessary. But Rastas should also demand equal treatment in the wider educational system. It is a basic human rights question. What say you?
I agree.
Yeah.
I fully agree. As I said previously, everyone has the right to decide whether they want to send a child to a public school or whether they want to send a child to a private school.
Yeah.
Right? But at the end of the day, in my view, that's not what I would be fighting for. I would be fighting to send my child. If a man wants to send his child to a public school, right, and he's been deprived of that, right, I will say no, you cannot do that, right, because he has that right. If a Rastafari choose to play any role in society, because it's our fundamental human rights. I remember when we used to go through Antigua airports and we had to take off our, and they used to try to first take off your turbans. Right. When you go to England, there are 6 who are police officers. Right, they wear their turbans. Right, you go to Muslim countries, police officers wear their turbans. Right, so our perception, as I say, your reality is based upon how you perceive stuff. So your reality might not really be the reality, but we have people living, and what they are perceiving to be the truth is something that has been actually hammered down and drilled down and glued down and concreted down in the brains, right, in the entire being. So to really deprogram our people and de-educate our people, to re-educate them, we really need the Rastafari perspective. So I would strongly encourage, all the potent Rastafari brothers and sisters, and there are plenty of them that work for all types of institutions, right, to work towards creating. Because I don't just want talking about the educational system, the socio-economic, the political, right? So why is it that we have to maintain the same laws that was handed to us by England? Why you have to put an X when you go and vote? So Rastafari will tell you, why would you go and put a wrong? You go to school and you learn that the wrong that's wrong. That's wrong. Wrong, you got a tick, an R, it's right, and an X is a wrong. And yet still would still go to vote, and then you put an X by the person you're voting for. Right? So at the end of the day, even these simple things are reasons why, because Rastafari understands the deeper sciences of things, that Rastaman wouldn't go and put no X by anybody's name, because they'll tell you, but that's wrong. Right? They'll rather put an arrow. So there are simple things when it comes to the whole aspect of our governance as a people that we have to work to actually change.
All right, Priest. On that note, we will take a break and we'll be right back. I believe we have Michelle from Jamaica. We were trying to get her. We'll see if we can also get her on as we wrap up the program this morning. This is the Bub Report, folks. Stay tuned.
How important are the dreadlocks?
This?
Is that
this
part
is my
of being
identity,
a Rasta?
man. Yeah, this is my identity.
Do you have to have dreadlocks if you're a Rasta?
But if he's a Rasta, then you wouldn't see why you shouldn't have it, because then you don't know freedom is freedom, and you don't have to bow, you do whatever you like.
Do you have to smoke to be a Rasta?
No, man. But herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Why these people who want to do so much good for everyone, who call themselves government?
And welcome back. That was the late, great Robert Nestor Marley, who, by the way, is perhaps the biggest Jamaican cultural symbol. And it's kind of ironic that we're having this debate against the backdrop of the fact that a lot of Jamaica's cultural symbols are dreadlocked people, who are either Rastafarians or who either sport dreadlocks. Marcus, I'm going to bring you in. I believe Michelle is also here with us, Marcus. Let's see. Michelle, can you hear us? I don't think Michelle can hear us yet. But the Right Honorable, I'm going to get to some other. You are up in the hills. Which part of
Yes.
St. Lucia? Which part of St. Lucia are you located?
Well, I am about 10 minutes from Castries, which is the capital, the city. That's up north. I am
Okay.
more on like on the the northeastern ridge of Castries, basically. I'm really realistically in the mountains. What we have there, we have Mount Kailash Rejuvenation Center, which is basically we have cottages because what we say we are revolutionizing the healthcare system. You know, I went to medical school. You know, I spent 3 years in Cuba, then I spent another 3 years at the American University of Antigua College of Medicine. And when I went to Greater Miami Healthcare Facility to actually say I had to go to the hospital to do my rounds, I was told that I had to take 17 vaccines. And from that time, I take a right turn and I established my own company, the Great Physician International, because I never believe in compromising, right? Why should we compromise our core values just to attain what, right? Then it led me to actually create, I say, revolutionizing the healthcare system. Why is it that someone that is sick, supposed to be in a dark room with hydrogen peroxide, all type of colors, no windows, no fresh air. Right? We say the best place for someone to heal and recuperate would be in the mountain. So I went up the mountain and established. We have cottages, we have everything up there. It's a fully sustainable area.
What is the name of? I'll give you a plug. What is the name of your center? What is the name of it, and what do you do in terms of like rehabilitation and healthcare?
Or it's the MKRC, Mount Kailash Rejuvenation Center.
Mount Kailash Rejuvenation Center. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the folks can check you out. And do you focus on all ailments, or how does that work?
Well, I mean, basically, the whole concept of disease in the Eurocentric way is actually symptoms. But from an Afrocentric perspective, you know, we merge the basic sciences of medicine with our esoteric sciences that were handed down to us. Even my grandmother taught me. We believe that we overstand that disease is a physical symptom of the physical structure, is basically a physical expression of emotional health, of spiritual health, and your ethereal health, which is your vibrational frequency, and still your astral health, because we all have our planets and our stars and our alignments up there. So when we actually deal with healing, we deal with the complete being, right?
Okay.
Not just the heart rate.
All right. So it's more of a holistic medical approach that you adopt.
Yes, my brother. Yes.
Okay, and I believe St. Lucia has elections coming up. Now, I know that your comrades in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they have been actively lobbying to ensure that things like marijuana are properly mainstreamed in St. Lucia. What kind of action are you guys taking, or what kind of representation would the Rastafarian brethren in St. Lucia be taking within the context of this upcoming election?
Well, I mean, over the years, the Rastafari community have been marching, you know, but as I say, I'm a very proactive man, and over the years, I've created over 7 medical cannabis products. You know, we have actually presented it to the cabinet of the Antigua and Barbuda government, you know, and it is something that we have been researching over the years because we are free people. So we didn't wait until they are just shipping out legislation in St. Lucia for the decriminalization. Right, so they have finally agreed that they're going to decriminalize, and now the government, now cabinet's supposed to be meeting and parliament's supposed to be meeting to see, well, how look, they are going to organize the legislation, right? But for me now, as a Rastafari, herb has always been free. So what I'm looking forward to is the economic benefits, because they tell you, oh, it's a $58 billion industry. They lie. It's over $1 trillion industry. So I want a piece in the $1 trillion industry because I don't believe the $1 billion industry. Right, so I believe that it's a $1 trillion industry, and Rastafari. So instead of just not fighting just to smoke herb or to burn a chalice, we've been doing that for years, right? Since we're the ones who have been victimized and brutalized, how is it that we are going to be positioning ourselves, whereby we are a brand in its own right? How we grow our herb is a brand in its own right. So we're supposed to be given that opportunity without paying no $1 million for a license. Right, as part of our reparations, right, we expect that the government allow us to actually fully indulge in the economic aspects when it comes to the marijuana, not just smoking and growing 2 trees. I'm talking about 10,000 trees or 100,000 trees.
And I think that is a concern that a lot of skeptics have. with respect to how Caribbean governments are approaching this. There is a school of thought that the people that they want to run the industry are foreign white investors, as opposed to the local Rastafarian, right? Or as opposed to the local marijuana grower, right? How do you ensure that that there is value added for the community, as you say, as opposed to ensuring that that value added is exported with those investors who might be coming in to take a piece of the action?
Well, I mean, it's the same banana situation. I mean, you plant banana and then you export it to England and they sell it 100 times the price, and then they do banana ketchup, they do banana flour, they do all type of stuff. The same sugarcane thing, you just take the sugar and then you export it, and then people do all types of things with it and then ship it back to you and sell it to you 10 times the price.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they. Most of the people right in our country are lawyers and these type of things, lawyers and someone who has no history in running a successful business. They're not business people, right? A country is a business, right? A country is a business. So what you find happening in these countries, instead of the politicians utilize the natural resources and even the people resources, they tax the people to actually keep the country functioning. So you that are working hard and things, your taxes actually making the country run, when they're supposed to be utilizing the country as a business and manage it properly to actually make profits. So if they were business people, instead of thinking about primary production and farming and plant and export, they'll be thinking about processing, right? So instead of wanting to sell out the industry to the white entrepreneurs, they should be saying, come, right now you're supposed to give us what? The capacity, laboratory, right? Because we have scientists, right? So because it has been illegal, because remember, America used to actually take all the marijuana from St. Vincent, right? Fly it to the universities in America, okay? Then breed it. Allow the university to have people they smoke it, they breed it, and after a decade, when they have mastered, right, where you have to buy one seed for $10 US from America, right? All the equipment when it comes to the whole aspect of processing of the herb, you're going to have to buy a piece of equipment, $140,000,
right,
just to actually make sure that your oil has no impurities. So for the past 10 years, they've been creating that, and bam, right now they are in an economic position to gain and to parasite and to suck our blood. Now we allow them to come and because why? Because we don't have that level of respect for our indigenous talent. Okay,
but it goes back to the point of how we are policing black hair, right? And what we deem to be valuable. We are almost out of time. I'm going to try and see if we can get Mr. Williams to give us some closing comments, but we seem to be having some connectivity issues there. Honorable, I will give you the platform. Final thoughts on the topic we're discussing today. And I would want to also publicly welcome you back to talk about holistic medicine and to talk about the legalization of marijuana, because those are two very hot topics that we'd want to address here on the Bub Report. The floor is yours, Honorable.
Well, give thanks, Honorable. You say that you're giving me the platform, but remember, it's the ancestors, right? The ancestors gave me the platform. You see all the technical difficulties. You see, there's a science in science that the scientists cannot measure, right? And there is a spirit that actually maneuvers even through the electronic pathway that people don't really understand. Good and evil. So the ancestors' hands is in everything today. And I give thanks for the opportunity to actually be on your program today. And I just want to just bid the people to understand that even someone with a master's degree, as yourself, I was looking at your resume, right? You're a master. Okay, that means that you're a master at something. You don't have to go and job for anyone. You're a master, right? You're a master. There are 360 degrees. Some people say 33. But when you have 1 or 2 or 3 degrees, that means that you have that capacity to produce, to create. Teachers never used to like me at medical school because I used to critique. I used to query, because I believe that every single theory is a theory. The whole of science is based upon a theory. You understand? Everything is just based upon theories. So why is it that we as a people, right, as a people, cannot create our own theories, conduct our own experiments, create our own medicines, create everything by ourselves, And we want our same oppressors who oppressed us. In closing, our oppressors who oppressed us, who cut our mother's belly, right? Who kept us as animals, are the ones who produce all of our medicines, right? And we wonder why diabetes have no cure, high blood pressure have no cure, the common cold have no cure, lupus have no cure. So when they say coronavirus have no cure, what has a cure in allopathic medicine? Nothing really. So it's a moment now for us to actually go in within ourselves and appreciate love what we have to offer more. So give thanks again, my honorable brother, for having me. And I pray that the spirit of the ancestors guide and keep you, and keep you safe and strong and mighty.
All right, Honorable. Thank you so much for appearing on the Bub Report today. Folks, in Grenada, next week we will be doing a deeper dive on the situation that's occurring there in Las Sages and David. We're going to attempt to talk to developers and talk to some of the activists who have been expressing concerns, and environmentalists and other stakeholders who have a concern with that tension of development versus environmental preservation. Once again, let me thank you for joining us for another edition of the Bub Report, Sunday edition. Until next time, I'm Kellen Bub. Have a great week. Bye-bye.